This is extraordinary. McLaren now in the lead, but Mercedes very close behind. Can they take it? No, McLaren are onto the flight to the Middle East. Now all they need to do is make that connecting ferry to southern Europe. No, wait, Mercedes are on the flight to France. Can they do this? They've been blocked by volcanic ash. This is extraordinary. They're having to land in Italy. Who will reach their factory first? Whatever you say about Formula 1 2010, you can't say it isn't exciting. Although I have been wearing the same underpants for about 4 days now.
Hello, welcome to On Speed. I'm Gareth Jones, he's Zog.
Hello.
He's Richard.
Hello.
I hope this is working because we're using a new machine today and I don't know if this is actually recording. I mean, we could just be...
The red lights are all on, so I think we're looking good.
Yeah.
It sounds quite weird in my head, but then I realised that a lot of things...
A lot of things sound... Are you still hearing those voices, Richard?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. And today I was determined that there was once a major high street bank that sent out customers of other banks a small box with a carrot in it to try and attract their custom. The idea was, the carrot and the stick kind of thing. But there was a postal strike when they sent them out. And what they actually did, customers have gone, oh, there's something from another bank that I'm not with at the moment. I wonder what it is. Oh, it's a rotting vegetable. I'm not going to join them. Now, I'm convinced
one of
that
the less successful campaigns.
And yet, nobody I know has ever heard of this. So I think I might have made it up.
It could be an urban myth.
If anyone out there knows this story, please get in touch, because I want it to be true. And I don't know how I'd have invented something like that. It's a bit weird.
But only if you've got some actual real sort of documentary evidence that you can prove
like
this
the
happened.
box that the rotting carrot arrived in when you went, I'm not joining those bunch of... I don't even know which bank it was. That's the thing I don't want to say because I might get it wrong in this story that I've made up. I've just remembered something. This programme's about cars, isn't it?
Oh, gosh.
Sorry.
Well, let's see if we can do something about that then. My name is Gareth Jones, and I admit I was wrong about something in F1.
Go on.
Well, if you listen carefully to the show, if you're one of those people who wants to go back and listen to these shows repeatedly, and I hope such people do exist, you will hear that at some point in the past I said very emphatically, I think it's a mistake, Jenson going to McLaren. It's Lewis's team, he's embedded in there, he's a great racer, he's really going to struggle against Lewis. The only thing he's got going for him, Jenson, is his beautiful smoothness, which can help the tyres. I'm not doubting his racing abilities, but I am astonished that Jenson is doing so well at McLaren, well enough to have won 2 races where Lewis hasn't so far. And what a race China was to win! Woo!
Well, I mean, the thing is, I think we were all kind of agreeing with you when you said that. I was reading one of the F1 pundits online this week who finished his little blog or whatever by saying, of course, this is one in the eye for all those naysayers who said Lewis would do no good at McLaren. And I just thought, actually, there's no need for that because it was the obvious conclusion to draw. And if sorry, did I say Lewis? I meant Jenson. But if Jenson would struggle at McLaren...
Well done for picking
well
self-editing now.
Yeah.
Well done. And I thought, well, if actually Button had been struggling at McLaren, he'd have finished it with going, well, of course, as I said, along with many commentators, he was going to struggle. It's just like, there's no need for this sort of smugness. And so here, let's say, we're all holding our hands up and saying we were wrong because he's doing wrong. So you know what? I hate it when people obviously pay attention to this show because I had somebody on Twitter on Sunday after the race who called me on the fact.
I saw that. Saying that, mentioning it on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So let's just not make predictions anymore.
Ever.
Oh, all right, let's. Yeah. Because that's the thing. I mean, in fairness, let's say one thing about Hamilton, which is that, yes, he seems to be having a slightly more torrid time of it, but the way that he drove in Sunday's race was extraordinary. He was closing on Button.
And this is the thing.
That was a hell of a drive.
The last race was a particularly great example. Fantastic to see the two of them racing the way they are at McLaren, and McLaren are letting them race. I mean, that they actually said, Whitmar said, there were no instructions for the drivers at the end of the race. Yeah. They were racing each other up to the end. I dare say they were being sensible enough not to take too many chances, but they were pushing it. But this is the thing. You had Button, another beautiful, gorgeous, smooth, well-judged, beautifully judged drive.
The word that keeps being used at the moment in the way that he's driving is mature.
Well, and
not in that
is,
kind of old man
not
in a
boring
Peugeot
way.
kind of way, where they're crawling along, getting in your way. But he just knows when to make calls. The thing, with tyres and stuff like that, his experience is coming through now.
Yeah, and then you've got Lewis, the Charger, making sort of repeated blitz after blitz through the field.
Yeah. Well, that stuff in the pit lane, let's talk about that, because that was ace. I'm sorry, but that was brilliant.
What was your take on that? I mean, 'cause
I thought it was fantastic.
Hang on, whoa. There were at least 3 events in the pit lane that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Well, was it Alonso pipping Massa on the way in? That was a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Was it Lewis and
doing
Vettel?
the same to Vettel on the way in?
On the way in and then the way out.
Yeah. Presumably you're talking about the McLaren.
But it was on the way out. It
Yeah.
was Hamilton and Vettel on the way out of the pits. What would you take on that?
Well, it was hard to tell on the telly, but as far as I could work out, he wasn't that close to any other mechanics. Now, I don't know what it was like in real life. If he was getting close to the mechanics, well, then silly boy shouldn't do that, because they're people and you don't want to hit people.
As in Hamilton rather than
Hamilton,
Vettel.
who was on the inside.
Who was on the
pit garage side. But as it was, just these 2 young proper racers, the people who just can never let go of that, will never just go, all right, after you. They're proper driven racing drivers. And the fact that they were really going for it there, and I was thinking, if the FIA penalise this, it's because it's too interesting. That's the thing, because they can't have... I mean, it's like, what? This is what we should be looking for, not where they're racing everywhere, even in the pits, for God's sake. It's fantastic.
In the past, I've said that, F1 races shouldn't have too much overtaking. It devalues how difficult it is. But I can't remember a race with as much passing as this, and I can't remember a more exciting race.
It was great to see Lewis fighting with Schumacher, and Schumacher giving an absolutely, beautiful example of just how to position your car so as not to give the other guy room, which worked for quite a while until Lewis did find his way through. But that was a great little
And
then the other thing was Lewis's move on, was it Vettel, when Vettel was taking the Force India, and you could see
he did a double.
He anticipated having it hold each other up.
So good.
Put his car there and then took 2 cars at once.
But just going back to Schumacher, because something else that I wanted to say about him in that race, and generally this season, there's been a lot of reporting saying, well, what was the point in him coming back? Silly old man having a terrible time, he's rubbish now. And it's very easy to laugh about that, because it is quite amusing that I think everyone thought he'd come in and just be there in top 3 podium every time. Now, it's obvious the car isn't quite up to scratch. But the way that he's driving a below-par car is, as far as I'm concerned, classic Schumacher. Like you say, the little sort of subtle making the car, as Martin Brundle will say, as wide as possible. Yeah. All that stuff. The way that he drove that race in Shanghai, and he came in 10th. He got a point. I mean, fair play, in a fairly lousy car by all accounts.
On the other hand, he is, I would say...
On the other hand, Nico has had like 2 third, 4th
that's
places.
True. That's true.
Yeah, in the same equipment. I would be one of the first to defend Schumacher as a driver. His abilities are extraordinary. I think I've said on this show, I was never a Schumacher fan because I was a Damon Hill fan, and Schumacher always represented the enemy. But you cannot fault his racecraft and his willingness to get the job done. And I think the opportunity for Schumi to shine over the season will come when it's a great tactical race and he has to play the end game, which he does so well with Brawn. Yeah. But on a sheer lap-by-lap speed basis at the moment, Zog's favourite, Nico, is showing Schumi the way. And Schumi shed some light on this. He's talked about a rear wing solution that Nico was more happy with than I was happy with. So there's something about the nature of these new cars which is preventing Schumi, at the moment, from getting the most out of it. I think that'll change when they get to Barcelona. I do. I think they'll have such a fundamental update to the cars, bearing in mind Schumi's influence, because a lot of that car was developed without Schumi's influence, that it will tailor his needs. It was the same when he went to Ferrari in 96, was it? He went to Ferrari first half of the year in that John Barnard car. It was a pig. Halfway through the year, they put the high nose on, they tailored it to Schumi's sort of very pointy front end, and he was unstoppable.
Can I just say one thing? Please stop calling him Shuey.
Oh, sorry.
He's not your friend. You don't go for a pint with him, and you're not Australian. So there's no excuse. His name is Michael Schumacher. You wouldn't call him Mike, would you? It'd be weird. His name is Michael Schumacher. You wouldn't call him Mike. That would be strange.
Hallo, Schumacher's Hause.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Don't call me Mike.
But, Mike, I'm your brother.
Exactly.
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
I want to talk about the relationship between Lewis and Jenson again, because something fundamental happened at this last race. I think Lewis is evolving, right? He's growing away from his dad, as we all do.
Story this week that they're not speaking.
No,
Don't know how true that is. I mean, it was just something that was on the Autocar website. Who knows? Where does this stuff come from? I don't know.
It's Autocar rather than tabloid, so...
Well, exactly, that's the thing. You believe they're fairly well informed, and it did actually have a quote from Hamilton brackets Lewis, who said, I haven't spoken to my dad for a couple of weeks, and it's a bit like, well, actually I'm thinking about it, I haven't spoken to my dad for about 10 days, but then he's never managed me, so I suppose it's a bit different.
Plus, you haven't been involved in a major race in the last few days, and haven't how did it go?
No, and I'm fairly confident my dad will ring me in the next couple of days because he'll want to talk about the weather and stuff like dads do.
Yeah.
So it's okay. But that's the thing. Anthony Hamilton doesn't want to ring Lewis and say, "Oh, it's been warm, hasn't it?"
Well, it's inevitable. It's sort of can we call it Geri Halliwell syndrome, where you remember the Spice Girls, we're capable of doing anything. We leave our manager. We've had the biggest hit in the world. Lewis has achieved everything he set out to achieve with his dad. He won the World Championship. His dad got him there. Having done that, you can see how both parties might consider wanting to prove themselves in their
It is classic.
Yeah.
It's classic band behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hamilton will be writing his own songs next, and then we're really in trouble. No, I'm sorry, I have confused him with Boyzone. But it is true. Is that? You're right.
We know how badly.
Drop the manager.
We know how bad it goes when drivers start designing their own car.
That would be the equivalent, wouldn't it? Just turning your back on everything and going, I'm going to design my own car because I can do it better. Don't need management. Don't need anything. I'm going to do it myself, and then. You're in the bargain bin.
Granted,
or in this case,
Jack Brabham could do it, but everyone since then, even Fittipaldi, of course, was the Fittipaldi
the Copasuca team.
Yeah, absolutely awful.
Well, they were sponsored by Copasuca, weren't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, Copasuca, the South American sugar company, not
Imagine a
Copasuca.
cup of soup.
Sponsored by Slade.
It's your dream thing.
Oh,
It would be
so
great when
happy.
a Slade F1 car sponsored
Brilliant.
by cup of soup.
Oh, we don't. It'd be a Jenson, wouldn't
That's
it?
the kind of glamour that Bernie wants to bring to us. We just know that's
But every race a different flavour. I mean, just think about it. That'd be great.
Okay, I'm coming round to this idea. But Jenson and Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. Jenson Lewis. Something extraordinary happened between them, I think, in the last race. And it is a function of Jenson and Lewis growing closer together and Lewis growing further away from his father. What's that on Lewis's chin?
There's a bit of growth there.
A bit.
Yeah.
Who is the most beardy F1 driver with a drive
Apart
at
from
the
Nick,
moment?
apart from Nick Heidfeld.
Apart from Nick Heidfeld, who's almost certainly Viking, I would say. It's Jenson. Jenson is swampy. It's clear that Jenson is leaving such an impression with Lewis that Lewis feels he's got to do what Jenson does now. A bit of hair on the face, like
It's
Jenson.
quite sweet, really.
People
isn't it,
will
in a
love
way?
me again. How did that happen? But it's happened once before as well, I think. Schumi.
Stop it.
Michael Schumacher. What colour did he paint his helmet after Eddie Irvine stopped racing with it? Schumi's helmet was always what colour?
Before.
Well, he changed to red.
Yeah.
I thought he had a green and yellow one, didn't he?
No, Schumi's helmet, he drove for Benetton. The car was green and yellow.
Oh, that's right.
But he had a red, white, blue, black helmet. White helmet, blue patch with stars on the top, and a bit of the German flag on the side. That Schumi's colours. Bit like Barrichello's. But then when Eddie Irvine left Ferrari, what do you know? Suddenly Schumi's painting his helmet red. Like Eddie Irvine, sort of bright orangey red, signal red helmet. I think it was Violet who pointed out once that Michael Schumacher wants to be Eddie Irvine. Do you know, he was the opposite ends of the cool spectrum. I know you think Eddie Irvine's not that cool, but in Grand Prix motor racing terms, he was a bit rock and roll.
No, I
was
think
clinical.
no. I just set the record straight before someone calls me on it on Twitter or something. I think Eddie Irvine probably is quite a cool guy. I just thought he talked a lot of You can still be cool and talk a lot of I don't think a lot of people think maybe like Liam Gallagher's quite cool, but he talks a lot of It's a different sphere.
My final bit of evidence that Michael Schumacher wants to be Eddie Irvine, apart from painting the red helmet, in the way that
He
Lewis...
changed his name to Michael O. Schumacher for a brief time.
What's Michael Schumacher's oldest son called? Mick. Fact.
Hello, Michael. I'm home.
Top of the morning to you, Corinna.
Morning. It's 7:30 in the evening.
Bigala, so it is.
Why are you talking like this?
Like what, be Jesus? Have a cup of the tea, so you will.
Oh, Michael, not this again.
Quiet, ya big bollocks. I'm trying to have a pint of the old black stuff.
That's balsamic vinegar.
Ach, shite.
Gareth Jones on speed.
At the risk of repeating myself, my name is Gareth Jones and I'm wrong about something in F1. I was wrong about Vitaly Petrov. I didn't think Vitaly Petrov was the greatest driver in the world. He'd been admirable in, what was it, Formula Renault 3.5, I think he was in.
Yeah.
And a bit of a sniff in GP2, but never great. But he's making those Renaults go, well, one of them go quite well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Kubica's doing a good job in the other Renault, but you would expect Kubica, given a decent car, to put in a decent performance.
Yeah.
Not much of a surprise. As you say, Petrov, he's one of the surprises of the season, I think.
And did well in the Chinese Grand Prix, put in a good performance, at least. In the face of the preceding week, stories coming out that he'd been told to lose weight by the team.
No,
because
really?
he was too heavy for the
Yes, I
car.
read
Too much caviar.
Well, that's the thing. It's sort of... He doesn't look like a fatty. Not in the
he's
sort of
not,
Montoya style. He looks just like a normal-sized man, but they're saying that every single kilo, every single gram counts because of all the fuel and stuff
And
now.
weight distribution in the car.
And weight distribution, and they'd rather that the driver was a sort of fixed, lightweight component within the car.
I would like to admit that I'm wrong about something else as well.
Go on.
I've forgotten what it is.
We'll come back to that.
Hello, this is Vitaly Petrov. There seems to have been some confusion in Formula One. Many people think I am worse driver than Felipe Massa, Mark Webber, Michael Schumacher's. Well, the easy way to remember how good I am. Simply look at the result of Chinese Grand Prix and compare to driver.com. Simples.
It was Vitaly Petrov I was also wrong about. I thought...
You've done him.
Yeah, but I was also wrong in another way about him. I was under the impression that sort of slightly glamorous, late 50s woman who appears in the
She's
garage...
not late 50s.
60s? Really? She's younger, you say?
I think you need your eyes testing.
Have you got a little bit of a crush on her, Zog?
What?
No, she's got too much of that sort of stern Russian matron thing going on.
Some
but
people
not,
like
but,
that.
But not in a good way. Is all. You know,
Okay,
I mean, it's
all right.
just.
Just checking.
Is she his mum or is she his manager?
I think she's his manager.
Do you know this for a fact?
I don't know. No, I don't know this for a fact. I overheard somebody mentioning, as it's saying something about manager. That's all I have to base it on. I haven't looked this up, but
I haven't looked her up.
so really, it's a guess. Really, I don't know.
I just think if she is his mum, then that's great because I can't remember an opportunity previously for a driver to bring his mum without dad and everything. I mean, Lewis brings both his mums. I mean, that's showing off, isn't it? For the last race, was it last season or the year before? He had both his mums there.
But I think,
did, yeah.
Yes, it's usually you usually see the dads, don't you?
Yeah.
Massa's dad,
Yeah.
Anthony Hamilton,
Yeah.
John
Button.
Heather,
John Button, yes, and didn't he look inconspicuous amongst the McLaren crowd at China, wrapped in the Union flag? I mean, you've got to love him, but he does stick out like a sore thumb amongst the slickness and the sort of calculating approach
and
of
long
the
may he
McLaren
continue.
crowd.
Not least because he gives us all a bloody good laugh. Fair play. He's always there, isn't he? In his sweaty pink shirt, and you can't fault him for it. I did quite like John Button, really. I've never met the bloke, but he's seems like a...
I know Ron isn't dead. Ron Dennis isn't dead, but in terms of McLaren, you're dead to me. He's walked from the race team. But I just think if Ron was still around, there would be no way in the world he would allow John Button in the McLaren garage. Exactly, yeah. Too greasy. So back to where we started. I admit I was wrong about Button fitting in so well at McLaren and all those other things I was wrong about in F1. And long may F1 continue to surprise us that way. If I was right about everything all the time, I'd be Jake Humphrey.
I'm into that.
You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. He was Richard.
Goodbye.
He was Zog.
Goodbye.
And I was the other one. Oh, that's wrong.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whizbang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!